Namaskar. I, Shatarupa Mishra, Deputy Director Publicity, Directorate of Public Relations, Publications and Publicity, Central Board of Direct Taxes, New Delhi, welcome you to yet another informative episode of Samvaad. In today's session, we will be delving into the features of the Vivad se Vishwas scheme 2024. This scheme was first enacted in 2020 to provide a one-time resolution of pending income tax disputes between the taxpayers and the income tax department. After the huge success of the scheme in 2020, the income tax department has now brought the direct taxes Vivad se Vishwas scheme 2.0 2024 for the benefit of the taxpayers. To enlighten us more about this beneficial scheme, we have with us today Shri Pankaj Jindal sir, Joint Secretary Tax Policy and Legislation, Central Board of Direct Taxes, New Delhi. Namaskar sir. Shri Pankaj Jindal sir is an IRS officer of the 1998 batch and is presently serving as Joint Secretary in the Tax Policy and Legislation Division of CBDT. He is a graduate in Electronics Engineering and has also done law. During his 26 years of service, he has served the Income Tax Department in various capacities, including working in investigation, assessment, international taxation, legal, and vigilance verticals, and has also been part of budget earlier as Undersecretary. He has been associated with the Direct Taxes Code twice. He has also served on deputation in the Income Tax Overseas Unit in the Indian Mission in Mauritius. As part of the Tax Policy and Legislation Division, Sir has extensively worked on the Direct Taxes Vivad se Vishwas Scheme 2024. So thank you for accepting our invitation to be guest speaker on Samvaad, and we welcome you to today's session.
Thank you.
Sir, first we would like to know what are the cases that are covered under the Direct Taxes Vivad se Vishwas Scheme 2024?
So, if one sees the Direct Tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme, it is part of Finance Number 2 Act 2024. So, Section 89 of the scheme lists out the cases which are eligible for settlement under the scheme. So, there are four kinds of cases. One, where appeal is pending on 22nd July 2024 before Joint Commissioner Appeals, Commissioner Appeals, ITAT or High Court or Supreme Court, or where a writ or SLP is pending before High Court or Supreme Court. So, this is the first category of cases. Then second category is where the assessing officer has issued a draft order and then the taxpayer has gone before the DRP and then DRP is yet to issue directions in that case. So, that is also eligible for settlement. Again, that directions they should be pending with the DRP. The case should be pending with DRP as on 22nd July 2024. Then third case is where DRP has issued directions, but the assessing officer is yet to frame an order, yet to pass a final order. That case is also eligible for settlement. And then the fourth case is where a taxpayer has filed a revision application under Section 264 before the Commissioner, and then that revision application is pending on 22nd July 2024. So, these are the four cases which are eligible for settlement under the scheme.
Thank you, sir. So, this brings me to my next question. What are the cases that are not covered under this scheme, sir?
So, again I would request that taxpayers may refer to Section 96 of the scheme. So, Section 96 lists out all the cases which are not eligible for settlement. Broadly, I will say that cases where the assessment has been framed on the basis of search initiated or requisition made under Section 132 or 132A of the Act, that is one. Then second case is where prosecution has been initiated against the taxpayer. Then third case is where information has come under Section 90 or 90A of the Income Tax Act, and then that information has been utilized in framing the assessment. So, again those cases are not covered. And then the fourth cases are where there is information regarding foreign assets of the taxpayer, and the taxpayer has not disclosed those foreign assets. Again, those cases are also not eligible for the scheme. Then there are other acts also like UAPA, COFE-POSA and other acts where there is some default by the taxpayer, and because of that the taxpayer becomes ineligible to file declaration under the scheme in the Income Tax Act. So, for detail again I would request the taxpayers to refer to section 96 of the scheme.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what are the rates payable on the tax arrears under the Direct Tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme 2024?
So, regarding rates, there is a table in section 90 of the scheme. So, the table basically divides the rates into two parts depending upon whether a declaration is filed before, on or before 31/12/2024 or it is filed after 31/12/2024, because there is one rate, lesser rate before 31/12/2024, and then the rate marginally increases if the declaration is filed after 31st December 2024. So, again then there are categories. There is a case of new appellant and old appellant, one, and then there is a distinction between whether the arrears relate to taxes or the arrears relate to penalty, interest and fee. So, where there is a case of first I would little bit dwell upon what is the old appellant and what is the new appellant. So, old appellant is one where the taxpayer had filed appeal before 31/1/2020. That means when the earlier Vivad se Vishwas scheme was in vogue. That appeal which was filed before 31/1/2020 is pending at the same forum, at the same appellate forum, even on 22nd July 2024. So, that case is the case of a old appellant, and then the new appellant is one where the taxpayer has filed an appeal after 31/1/2020 and on or before 22nd July 2024. So, broadly the rates are for a new appellant and tax arrears, the rates are 100 and 110. 100 before 31/12/2024 and 110 if the declaration is filed after 31/12/2024. Similarly, for the old appellant, the rates are 110 and 120. So, again I would repeat for the benefit of the taxpayers, the rates in respect of tax arrears: new appellant 100, 110, old appellant 110, 120. So, this is regarding tax arrears. So, if we talk about penalty, interest and fee, where separate appeal is pending on penalty, interest and fee, so those appeals also can be settled. So, again in that also there is a distinction between old appellant and new appellant. So, if it is the case of new appellant, then penalty, interest and fee, they can be settled prior to 31/12/2024 at 25%, after 31/12/2024 30%, and similarly for old appellant 30% before 31/12 and 35% after 31/12. So, this is a broadly the description, and again if you see the table in section 90 of the scheme, these rates are clearly listed out in a tabular form.
Thank you, sir, for elaborating on this. Sir, our viewers would like to know what are the various forms and timelines one should keep in mind while availing this scheme.
So, regarding forms and timelines, first I will describe the forms and then I will describe the timelines. So, there are basically 4 forms. 2 have to be filed by the taxpayer and 2 have to be issued by the department. So, what are these forms? Form 1 is a declaration and undertaking which is required to be filed by the taxpayer. So, whenever a taxpayer files a declaration, so then the department issues a certificate in form number 2. So, the certificate basically is meant for that these are your taxes and this is the disputed amount of arrear or disputed amount of penalty, fee, interest, whatever, and this is the taxes, these are the taxes which one is required to pay for settlement under the scheme. So, after form 2 is issued, then form 3 is again filed by the taxpayer saying or certifying that the taxes have been paid, and wherever appeal was required to be withdrawn, that appeal also has been withdrawn. So after Form 3 is filed by the taxpayer, then Form 4 is issued by the department by the designated authority, where the designated authority says that yes, your declaration has been accepted and your case has been settled. So that is the final form, that is the order which is issued by the designated authority. So what are the timelines for these forms? So timeline is declaration. Whenever taxpayer chooses to file the declaration, that is his option. So, but then again, as I said earlier, there is a date 31/12/2024. Before that, the rates are lesser, and after that, the rates go up a little. So, whenever taxpayer files a declaration, within 15 days of the receipt of declaration, the designated authority issues the certificate in form number 2. So, after taxpayer receives that form number 2, within 15 days he has to make the payment of taxes, withdraw the appeals wherever appeals are required to be withdrawn, and then file form 3 with the department. So after form 3 is filed, then again that 15-day limit comes in. So department, if everything is in order, then department issues a order in form number 4, that is the final order for settlement. So these are basically the forms and the timelines.
Thank you, sir. The appellant shall keep this in mind. Sir, our next question is, suppose a taxpayer was eligible to apply for the direct tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme 2024 as his appeal was pending on 22nd July 2024, but subsequently before he could file the declaration under the scheme, his appeal has been disposed of. Can he still avail this scheme, sir?
Absolutely yes. The requirement in the scheme is that appeal has to be pending on 22nd July 2024. So after that, if the appeal has been disposed of, that has no bearing on settlement. The appeal could be disposed of for various reasons. The taxpayer may have approached the appellate authority that I want to approach for settlement under the scheme. So in some of the cases, the tribunals, they have dismissed the appeals of the taxpayer, saying that the taxpayer wants to approach for settlement under the scheme. These are one types of cases, and then there are other types of cases also where the appeal of the taxpayer has been disposed of on merits or otherwise by the concerned appellate authority. So whatever that may be, it has absolutely no bearing on settlement under the scheme. So if the appeal was pending on 22nd July 2024, it is eligible for settlement. It is eligible for settlement. What would be the tax on that tax which would be required to be paid on that appeal? So it would be deemed as if appeal is still pending. It would be deemed as if appeal is still pending. So whatever taxes the taxpayer would have to pay if the appeal was pending, so appeal would be considered as pending on 22nd July 2024, and accordingly disputed tax would be calculated.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the provisions of the scheme do not cover the cases where taxpayer would have received orders, but the time limit to file an appeal or a special leave petition had not expired as on 22nd July 2024. Is there any possibility that such cases can be covered under the scheme?
On this issue, we have also the board, the government has received various queries. So I would like to clarify that 22nd July 2024 is the specified date, and on the specified date the appeal has to be pending. So if the appeal is not pending, then those cases are not eligible for settlement under the scheme. So that is a key provision of the scheme, and that provision operates in the same fashion.
Thank you, sir. Sir, where the disputed tax contains qualifying tax arrears along with non-qualifying tax arrears, is the taxpayer still eligible to apply for the scheme?
So I would just clarify this issue, because the scheme is for settlement of appeals. So where there are qualifying tax arrears and non-qualifying tax arrears. So the taxpayer, when he approaches for settlement, he has to withdraw his appeal. That means he has to withdraw his appeal in full. So effectively, what does it mean? It means that the qualifying and non-qualifying tax arrears, they cannot be settled like this. the whole appeal is required to be settled. There is no concept of settlement of part appeal. So the appeal has to be settled. That means all the areas, whatever tax areas are there which constitute as part of that appeal, all those areas, they ought to be qualifying tax areas. So wherever there are qualifying tax areas, yes, the full appeal is settled. Where there are non-qualifying tax areas, therefore that appeal will not be eligible for settlement.
Thank you, sir. So this brings me to my next question, that whether a taxpayer can settle his penalty appeal while continuing to fight on the associated quantum appeal, sir?
So regarding this penalty appeal, there are 2-3 aspects to the question. One is that where the taxpayer comes before the department for settling the quantum appeal. So there the taxpayer will get immunity from the penalty. So there he is not required to settle the penalty separately. So he will settle the quantum and then he will get immunity from penalty. That is one. Second is where he is not settling the quantum. So where he is not settling the quantum, obviously he cannot settle the penalty separately if the penalty is associated with quantum. So that is two. And then there could be a case where the quantum appeal there are no tax areas pending in respect of the quantum appeal. Whatever taxes are there, whatever appeal was there, that appeal is no more there, all the taxes have been paid off. So there if you see the definition of disputed penalty is one which is levied or leviable in respect of tax areas. So because there are no tax areas left, so those penalties also, they can be settled under the scheme. And then fourth, there are cases where the penalty is not associated with the quantum demand. So those are separate penalties. They are obviously eligible for settlement. So these are broadly the parameters in which a penalty appeal is required to be decided.
So thank you for elaborating on this in such a clear and lucid manner. So whether the taxpayer can settle their appeals under the direct tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme to 2024 by using the refunds which they are expecting from the department.
So again on this aspect, I would request the taxpayers to see the scheme. So in the scheme there is absolutely no provision that amount can be paid by way of adjustment of the refund. So because there is no provision, so whatever amount they are required to pay, which is mentioned in certificate 2, form number 2, which is a certificate issued by the designated authority. So that amount has to be paid separately, not by way of refund adjustment.
Thank you, sir. This brings me to my last question, that if taxes are paid after availing the benefit of the direct tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme 2024 and later the taxpayer decides to take refund of these taxes paid, will that be possible?
So there are two aspects to this question. One is whether any refund can be granted under the scheme. So generally there is no provision for refund. Section 94(1) of the scheme clearly states that refund shall not be given under any circumstances, but there is an exception to this in section 94(2). What is the exception? The exception is that where the taxpayer has paid higher amount of taxes prior to settlement under the scheme, where he had paid higher amount of taxes, then that balance tax would be refunded to the taxpayer without interest. So these are broadly the provisions which are relating to refund, which are in section 94 of the scheme.
Thank you, sir. Sir, once again, I thank you for taking time out from your very busy schedule and joining us on today's episode of Samvaad and enlightening us on this very important and beneficial scheme for the taxpayers.
Thank you so much, and I would request all the taxpayers who are still sitting on fence, who are sitting on sidelines, who are waiting whether to go for the scheme or not. This is a scheme which it came in 2020. It has again come. So this is a beneficial scheme for the taxpayer. I would request taxpayer that to avail of the lower rate by filing a declaration before 31/12/2024. So if they come here, their appeal would be settled their penalty and prosecution would be waived off, and it would be a win-win situation for the department and the taxpayer. And thank you to you that you have invited me and given me a chance to elaborate on certain aspects of the scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, viewers, I thank you for joining us in today's episode of Samvaad. Please follow us on our official YouTube, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook channels for more such informative and educational content. Namaskar. Jai Hind.